To start this off, I want to welcome everybody to another episode of the podcast. And it is with joy and so much honor that I welcome my guest. We have an Anton one with Jose Marichan. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you, Anton, for inviting me.
I'm guessing that it is the most busy time of the year for you. Is it? I would imagine that when the Ber Months hit, that's the time that you really get down to business. Is it the busiest time of the year for you, or is it just what the commercials say?
No, actually, all through the year, I'm fortunate to be invited to do various concerts. So it's not just during the September, October, November, December period. It's all through the year. I noticed that I'm having more and more out of the country shows, foreign shows, because as you know now, Filipinos are ubiquitous. They're all over the world.
Yeah.
And so they probably miss the songs that they grew up with when they were still living in the Philippines. So I get to be invited to foreign shows.
And I know that your songs have been recorded also in different countries, in different languages. But what's sad and very unique about this year's Christmas, of course, with the pandemic and everything, is that I haven't been to the mall in the longest time. We don't have any mall shows. What would be the biggest difference for you when it comes to 2020 Christmas season rather in the Philippines?
Yeah, I guess the biggest difference is not being able to get together with friends and classmates as we used to. You know, before this pandemic, we would have class gatherings, our alumni, our classmates in college and high school, we would get together. So I miss the handshake, the hugs, the pat on the back, and I miss, kissing our friends and relatives. It's the human touch that is natural to us. It comes natural for us to hug and to embrace. When that's gone or when that's missing, you sort of miss it.
Yeah.
Of course, with the text messages, you can still connect with people. With Zoom, you can have meetings with your business associates, but it's not quite the same.
On the social side, though, I would always like to say that humans are social beings, and that was my number one. Besides, of course, the health, job security, and everything. Getting to see people was my biggest worry. That with the pandemic, I won't get to have that social interaction.
Exactly.
For you though, sir, with your friends and I guess family who are in different places, do you have those regular Zoom calls, or how do you still how do you say this, satisfy that need for that social interaction?
Mostly by text messages. Our college class, we have a Viber group, and so we have exchanges of ideas and things. We even have two groups. One we call the Luxid Viber Politics, and we have the Luxid, our class. And so in politics, I try not to get involved in it, in the discussion so much. But at the same time, I don't want to remove myself, because when I remove myself, they'll see it. I just don't get involved in discussions about politics. Although I have my own political views and certain attitudes and certain opinions about what's going on in the world, about what's going on in the country. But I try not to get involved in it because that causes tensions, quarrels, disagreements, misunderstandings. So life is short, life is brief. So it's better not to have too many enemies.
I'm curious to know, have you always been not so vocal when it comes to having political, not even arguments or just political discussions? I understand that we see this trend now when people get a bigger platform, when they become public figures, they sort of feel they need to talk about these political things. So how do you balance that? Because, everybody as a citizen, you also have your responsibility, but as a public figure, you have your own responsibility as well. So how do you get the balance in that, sir?
I share my political views with my immediate family, but very seldom outside of the family. I'm very expressive about how I feel towards my children, and I tell them what I feel or how I feel or where this virus came from, and so on and so forth, and what directions the government should take, how to eradicate or to minimize poverty.
Yeah.
I have my ideas, but rather than being on the platform and telling the whole world, I'd rather do it in my own territory, in my own community,
Yeah.
and low key. Low key is the best.
I would always say that just because someone isn't, posting about it or talking about it on stage doesn't mean that they aren't doing their part. Now, from
Right.
political talks, I want to bring it back to your childhood. So, I know that when you were 20 years old, you hosted this show on ABS-CBN called 19ers, and you had a very interesting setup. So with your dad, actually, if I'm not mistaken, your dad's named Antonio, which is the same, which I have the same
Yes,
name
yes.
as well. He
They,
had
they called him Tony. Tony
Tony.
Chan.
Okay,
Tony
Tony
Chan.
Chan,
Yeah.
Mr. Tony Chan. So Mr. Tony Chan said that you can host it 20 years old, so you were still studying, as long as your grades didn't suffer and that you won't be paid a salary. Now, this is something that really shocked me, because if I imagined, taking time out of my school, I'm busy, I have school, I have my orgs and everything. If I'm gonna host a show, I'm gonna wanna get paid for it. So how did you? What was that like for you?
Well, I guess Anton, in your case, because you already have graduated and you're working. So of course, if you're working in a station or a newspaper or a journalist or you have to be paid. But since I was a sophomore student in college, my father wanted me, number one, to dedicate myself to my studies and then eventually work for him in his business. That was his dream. And so he felt that by emceeing a show on television, I might get a lot of attention and it would make me swell headed. It will make me popular. It will divert me from the business. He felt that doing it as a hobby is well and good, is fine. You know, everyone has a hobby, everyone has to have a hobby, but it would take me away from the path towards business. And so that was the wisdom. He said, don't pay him a salary, because then by doing what you enjoy and getting paid for it, you'll never stop doing it. You see?
Your initial reaction though, when that happened, when he said that this is what's gonna happen, you're not gonna get paid. Did you understand it already, or were you angry? I would imagine that I would be angry. I would be
No,
confused.
no, because I didn't get angry. First of all, as a college student, I was getting an allowance. Not
Mm.
much, but I was getting an allowance. And I was fortunate to be driving my own car back and forth from school. And so the idea of hosting a 19er show on television at 20 years old was a fun thing. And so it did not affect me that I would not get a salary, or that my father wanted me to concentrate on my studies. No, I felt that it was the right thing to do. It was only later on when I understood the wisdom that if you get paid for doing something you enjoy, you'll keep doing it. And so you will forget about the business. You'll forget about studying and one day taking over the business of your father.
Having that, I understand, and I hear stories of people who have family businesses, that there's this pressure for the kids. If the parents set up this business, worked really hard to get it, and then their kids are sort of expected to imana nila, or to take over the business in a while. For you, was it something that was did it just happen that your dad wanted you to do it and you also wanted to do it, or did you sort of like, through the years you sort of just understood, like, okay, I feel like this is the best one, this is the best decision for me to do career wise?
Growing up in Iloilo City, that constant reminder of my father's origins, my father's roots, would always be present in my life. I knew he was only 14 years old when he migrated from China. He left China because he had lost his father when he was only 10 years old, and his widowed mother had to take care of about 7 children. They were poor. And so he was out to try to improve his life. And so he came to the Philippines upon the invitation of a distant uncle. And then he would send money back to his mother in China from his earnings. So it's pretty much like our OFWs now working abroad and sending back their money to their families here. That was always present in my mind. And with that background, I knew that what the business that my father built, he cherished. He didn't want it to go to waste. Every summer, by the way, Anton, every summer, my father would require me to spend an hour, 2 hours in his business,
to learn
in his
about it
work.
and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, so that I would be exposed to what he was doing. And of course, I was curious. I would ask questions, and not very deep questions, but I got to be oriented in the business. And all my other siblings, my father did the same to them. So all of us grew up geared towards business as a means of livelihood, as a means of keeping our families together.
So it was more of how you were raised and understanding how, I guess, how things
Yes,
work, at least for your family, instead of it
right,
being something imposed by the
correct.
parents.
And my father, he had his own hobby. He loved to play golf, and so I felt that from the time I was 6 years old, 7 years old, I've always been attracted to music. It was like a natural reaction to music. We never had television yet. I only had a radio, and I would listen to the music. I would listen to different radio programs. I even, from Iloilo, I could listen to Manila radio stations, all AM stations. And so I idolized people like Bobby Nang, Larry Nang, Lito Gorospe, Eddie Mercado, and I enjoyed watching movies, not so much for the swashbuckling scenes, but for the music that the
Oh,
movies came with.
yeah.
So if you visit my home, Anton, you will see that I have a large collection of motion picture soundtracks,
Just the
movie
soundtracks.
musicals. Yeah,
Mm.
because music to me is part of my psyche, part of my brain, part of my heart. And so my father, I guess, sensed that from the time I was young. So he would tolerate it, he would encourage it a little bit, but at the same time, he always made sure that the path that I took would be towards the business.
But I think that's good because
Because,
there was that balance. He saw
yeah,
that you really had this interest in it, so he would, sort of give you some elbow room to still, I guess, not be too constricted that I'm not allowed to do music or anything. But how do you deal with it when it comes to your children? Because you have the memory, you know that your father came here from China. They had to build the business up from the ground. But for when it comes to your children, though, how do you also expect them, or do you want them also to go to the family business also? How do you deal with it when it comes to your children?
they all know the story, they all know the motivation. And, but at the same time, I know that out of 5 of them, okay, 4 of them are very much into music. So the fruits don't fall far from the tree. I never also want to take it away from them. But at the same time, they're practical, they know. And so they're all working for me in various aspects.
And you never told them to. It was sort of something that they just kind of learned
No,
on their own, decisions they made on their own. Ah,
yeah,
that's great.
no, this
That's
is
great.
this is a new generation now of Filipinos. My
Yeah.
father was an immigrant, so the orientation is different, but the objective is the same.
We're talking about career, the values of what it takes to earn a respectable, decent living. Now, when I try to compare, like if I look at the way I look at why do I work hard, why am I gonna put in the hours and everything, it's because I want to have a good life and I want to be successful, because I really think I'm nowhere near that yet, the success that you would say that this life was lived well because it has success. My opinion, sir, is that your life, you've had more success than in a lifetime, because you have success in business and you have a lot of success in music, the one that I'm more familiar with. What is your mindset now when it comes to working hard? Do you still want to like achieve something more? You want to be more successful, or is it sort of just you just take it day by day na by now?
Well, at the moment, I just want to make sure that my children, number one, of course, they're educated. I want them also to have their own footprints on this world, whether it be in finance or managing a sugar central or being a good soccer player, or, I want them to leave good footprints on this world. And 3 of my children are married, 2 are still unmarried. In a way, I feel bad that this pandemic has limited their social circles, meeting other people. So I feel very bad, which something that I enjoyed when I was their age. I was meeting a lot of people, and that's how I first met my wife, you see.
When it comes to like your mindset now, sir, and I know that you still go to work every day, you're still creating new music. What
No,
keeps you motivated?
I'm sorry, Anton, but I haven't written a song in maybe a
Oh,
year. Yeah, especially during this pandemic. I feel that I'm going through a period of drought. I'm not inspired to write new melodies.
but you have a new Christmas album. You have a new 22 track
Yes,
album. Are these songs written a long time ago? Because you mentioned also that you haven't written a single song in a year.
I started writing these new Christmas songs about maybe 10 years ago, 8 years ago,
Mm.
7 years ago. This was the time when I realized that my Christmas in our hearts um, is going the way of White Christmas, Silver
Yeah,
Bells. So I
a
thought,
classic.
okay, this is where my strength lies. The message of Christmas remains the same year after year after year. I wanted to write more Christmas songs, not about Santa Claus, not about snow, not about jingle bells, but about the Christmas in our country, the Christmas in Filipino families. The title is Going Home to Christmas. As if Christmas is like a state, Christmas is like a place. I'm going home to Christmas, back to the meaning of the Yuletide season.
You mentioned that you realized a few years ago that Christmas was really your thing. You also have become synonymous to Christmas for so many Filipinos. But then recently, also in the commercials that we see you in the songs that we see you doing now, there's sort of like a resurgence when it comes to your popularity. Did you feel this, or is it just or is it just me who's always in the internet, so I always see your face and I always hear your songs?
I never expected this to happen, and I'm glad it did. And I always say that I feel blessed to be associated with Christmas. Thank God for this. Every day I say, thank you, Lord, for the gift of music.
You get to reach a lot of people, and you get to bring joy to people, not even just through your song. So I've seen a couple of interviews also, and you've talked about this a lot of times with the memes that are going online. Do you have
Okay.
who usually sends you these memes? Do you see them yourself, or do you have a family member that sends it to you?
No, my friends and even my children tell me that there's a new meme of you. Oh yeah, and then they show me winter is coming.
Yeah,
So
it's you.
I sort of don't get it. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
Anton, by the way, Anton on One will be back with Jose Marie Chan, part
All
two.
right. We're here at part two. Oh wow, It's James Bond in
James
the
Bond.
background.
No, 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 no.
Who would be the best James Bond for you?
The best James Bond is Sean Connery.
Okay. I'd have to go with,
Sean
well,
Connery.
maybe because I'm more familiar with Daniel Craig, I'd have to go with
Yes.
his take on James Bond.
Well, Daniel Craig is rougher, right? His
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah.
Sean Connery is more like smooth and forma, you know.
When you perform, whether it's maybe mostly for the love songs, do you try to somewhat have that James Bond vibe that you try to internalize it? What's your performing style, sir?
No, no. When I do concerts, I emote my songs, you know, depending on the message of the songs. So I emote, and then I intersperse with jokes. I tell backgrounds of how I came about to write that song, how I thought of the idea, and then how old I was when I wrote that song.
Yeah, very personal, and you keep it. I guess you say you keep it very light. Lots of your songs though
Yeah.
are love songs, and also like your hit "Beautiful Girl." Have you ever used your music to somewhat try to court a girl, or nangharana ka na ba ever before?
Harana never. But if you go over my songs, I have written songs about reconciliation, forgiveness. I have written a song from the point of view of a girl to her father.
Mm-hmm.
I've written a song about as a parent talking about our children. To give you an example of some of the various themes of my songs, okay? There's one called No Rewind, No Replay. And Anton, what I'll be very happy to do is right after our Zoom meeting, you can give me your address
Mm-hmm.
and I will send you a compilation of my songs so
Oh
that you can
wow, thank
share them
you.
with your parents.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
of course, and my friends.
No, with your parents because your friends are millennials, and
But
so
we
they'll
still
say,
very appreciate. I think, also speaking on my personal taste in music. Growing up also, my lolo kasi, he really, really loved to sing. In his last years, two of his favorite, he had two songs that he kept singing again and again. And one of them was Please Be Careful With My Heart. I got kind of emotional and sentimental while I was preparing for this episode, for this interview, because when I was listening to your songs, I was watching your performances, it brought me back to when I'd see my lolo sing to my lola. He would always sing "Please Be Careful With My Heart" to her.
"How old is your lolo now?"
Well, he passed away 2 years ago. He would have been 90. I think he would have been 92 today, something like that.
And he's
Yeah.
your lolo on your father's side
Mother's side,
or
mother's side.
on the fresh
Yeah, the fresh side po.
fresh side.
Yeah, I would imagine that my logo is, if he, I mean, watching this, he's getting a laugh out of this. Na his apo actually gets
And
to interview one of his favorite artists.
what I'll do today is after our Zoom meeting, I will say a prayer for them.
Oh,
What
thank
are
you
their
very much.
names? What are their
Pinong
names?
and Pepay.
What what is
Rufino.
Pinong short for?
Rufino po. Rufino.
Rufino Fausto.
Fres po. Rufino Fres.
So Rufino Pre.
Yeah,
Okay,
mom's
okay,
side
okay.
po.
Sorry. Your Lola is
Josefa.
Pinay,
Yeah, Pepay,
Josefa.
short for Josefa.
I will pray for them later.
Thank
Uh,
you.
you know, I will pray for them. Especially you mentioned that he used to sing, "Please be careful with my heart"
Yeah.
to your Lola.
What he would do nga is that because he used to live in the village beside ours, so he would come over, and then our bonding would be, he'd ask me because he loves to sing the songs, but then he'd forget the lyrics now. What he would do is that he'd make me go to the library, print out the lyrics of the song for him, and I'm not sure, I think he loses the paper because it happened at least 3 times. And that was actually the first time that I heard your songs na hindi Christmas themed. And then that's when I was like, wow, oh, I would listen. Of course, I used to sing Christmas in Our Hearts when I was caroling in the village as a kid. Now, when you say Jose Marichan, they think the Christmas songs. But for me, it's very tied in with the love songs. And there's a concrete image of seeing my lolo and hearing him
Uh,
sing.
what a nice story.
Thank you,
Uh,
thank you.
okay, to go back to what we what we
Mm-hmm,
were talking about, I'll give you examples of some of my songs na hindi love songs.
mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a song I wrote called "No Rewind, No Replay." You know the term rewind and replay. The first when you first hear about it, you would think of an old movie, VHS tape, Betamax, or DVD that you're watching. If you miss a certain portion of the movie, you could always
You want to
rewind
rewind? Yeah.
and replay. Okay. We get very busy in our work, and sometimes we come home late from office, and by the time we get home, the children are already asleep. And then so we talk with our wives, and the wives will tell us, "Oy, kanina, alam mo, yung anak natin, he made his first steps. He walked for about 6 or 7 steps, and then he sat down." Wow. I said, "Really? Yeah, you missed it." Or they say, kanina, some children were here in the house, and they asked our daughter to sing, and she sang solo with the group. Oh, yeah, you missed it. So if we get too busy with our business, with our work, and we come home late, we miss many moments in our children's lives, important moments. There is no rewind, no replay. The lyrics go, "It's 2 a.m. and we're lying in bed, stillness all around. There's not a sound except in my head of happy songs, children singing. There is no rewind, no replay."
It's nice to hear you to hear you sing, but then to hear you recite the lyrics also is a beautiful thing. But going back to the no rewind, no replay, you were talking about how we can get too busy with the other things in our life. Being someone that has a business, has a music career, how do you find the balance in making sure you still find the time for those, very important moments?
First of all, I'm able to delegate
Mm-hmm.
to my people in the office. You know, I have about 900 employees in my sugar factory, but I have a team of managers whom I trust and that I have full confidence of. So I'm able to delegate. Why do I need to delegate? Because my priorities are my family, my family, my family. To me, that's very important because the children that you bring up to this world will become future citizens of our country. And the product that you will produce, the children who will become citizens, the quality of their character will depend on how you brought them up. Is very important that you give to your family more than to your business. Because
Yes.
the business, okay, you lose money today, you can always make it tomorrow. The money you lose this year, you can always make it back next year. But the children that you lose, the opportunity to educate and to bring them up
You can't
will
get that back.
forever be damaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed with a lot of successful people, whether it's in business or any other industry, usually family has a vital role. That they're successful because they value their family, because they prioritize your family.
When I was growing up, my father was a hardworking man, and because he started his business from scratch, he worked very hard. And so, sad to say, he he was often away on business. So the few moments, the precious moments that we spent, I cherish. And thank God my mother was there and my maternal grandmother was there to instill the values in me.
Mm-hmm.
And the few times that I had with my father, I learned a lot from him. Having learned that lesson, I promised myself that now I will spend more time as a father to my children. Thank God that the business that my father started is now established with a team of managers. It can almost run by itself,
Mm-hmm.
not like before when my father started. He had to work very hard, and sometimes he would be away 2 3 days at a time. And when I saw him, he was tired, and then weekends he would play golf, so I would not see him.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the lessons I learned that I'm correcting in my family.
Mhm. I can imagine that your family is I'm sure there's a lot of love in the family. You're very close. What would be a Christmas party like? I mean, before, of course, before the pandemic, like the recent Christmases. Could you paint us a picture? I'm very curious to see how do you spend your Christmas?
For 11 years, Anton, we lived in New York.
Mm.
From 1975 to 1986, I moved my family, my wife, and my 3 kids at that time. And in New York, 2 more children were born. Why did we move to New York? My father was always been in the sugar business. That is his only business. Buying sugar from planters and selling it to retailers or wholesalers or industrial users like soft drinks
Mhm.
companies and so on. When martial law was declared in 1972-73, President Marcos took over the entire sugar industry. He nationalized the sugar industry. Why? Because the sugar industry was a major foreign exchange earner, major part of the economy,
Yeah.
and it was a kingmaker, very influential. So when Marcos declared martial law and took over the sugar industry, he became the king of the sugar industry.
Yeah.
Overnight, my father and the other traders, competitors, were no longer allowed to buy and sell sugar.
Just like that.
He mandated that all sugar farmers could only sell sugar to him through his crony,
Ooh.
Bobby Benedicto. So overnight, we had no business, zero. So all of a sudden, we were not welcome anymore to do business in our country. In 1975, my father felt
Wow.
that he was too young to retire. So he decided that we moved to New York. Not all of us, ako lang, and my father, we moved there, and I set up a small trading company to buy sugar from Central and South America, from the Dominican Republic, from Honduras, from Bolivia. We would import the sugar into the United States. So that was my
Mm.
business between 1975 and 1986 in New York. And we only came back after the revolution. Because of the EDSA revolution, President Cory Aquino, the first thing she did was to, again, liberalize the sugar industry, and it went back to the private hands. So your question was, how did we spend Christmas with the family? Or my earliest Christmas recollections are those of New York, because that's where my kids grew up. When we left for New York, Lisa was only 4 years old.
Oh wow.
Michael was only 2 years old. And no, Jojo was only 2 years old, and Michael was only a few months old. So our memories of Christmas was looking out of the window, snow covered,
Snow.
and we were listening to Christmas songs, American Christmas songs on the radio, Jingle Bells, Santa Claus, Silver Bells, and we had the Christmas tree.
over the years, my children began to have their own ornaments.
Mm.
So Lisa's ornaments, Christmas balls, and whatever else, we would ask them to hang that in our Christmas tree. So the Christmas tree has become a symbol of our family.
Yeah.
Until now, Anton, when we put up the Christmas tree, we call all the children to come to the house. And we have a collection there. Oh, you pick your own
Ornament.
ornaments.
Yeah.
Oh, then Jojo would get an ornament and say, I remember this, Dad. Yeah, I remember this. I was 4 years old when I had
The
this.
same ones.
So
You have them here now in the Philippines.
yeah,
Wow.
the same. My memories of Christmas are very private.
Mhm.
You know, we in the US, we didn't have too many friends coming to the house. It was really just us
It's
family.
the family.
I will relate to you a very funny story,
Mhm.
Anton. One Christmas morning in New York, I woke up and I opened the window and I looked through the window. Wow, it had snowed the night before. The whole garden was filled with snow. Then I had an idea. Okay,
Yeah.
I got my rubber boots. My rubber boots, the ones
Mhm.
that I would wear over my shoes.
Yeah. For the
Okay,
snow.
and then using powder, baby powder.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I put powder on the sole of these rubber boots, and I made footprints from the
Oh.
fireplace to the Christmas tree and back to the Christmas tree.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I woke up the children. I said, kids, come down. You have to see this. Come, you know who was here last night while we were asleep? Look at the foot, the shoe prints.
Oh.
Santa Claus. Santa Claus was here. And look, Santa Claus put Christmas gifts under the tree.
So you're really Santa Claus. You were at least for that Christmas, you were Santa Claus.
Yes. And I think they believed it. They didn't even bother to check. Dad,
The same shoe
this is
print.
not snow. This is powder. We would watch a movie together, Christmas movies. And one of my favorite Christmas movies is Scrooge.
Oh,
You
yeah,
heard of that
yeah,
movie?
yeah,
Scrooge?
yeah. A timeless
It's about
Christmas
Christmas
movie.
Carol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Charles Dickens. And we would watch it together, or we would watch cartoons. One of our favorite cartoons was, did you ever watch cartoons when you were kids?
Oh
When
yeah,
you
of
were a
course,
kid?
of course. Yeah, yeah. I watch cartoons.
I'll sing you some melodies or some tunes and tell me what cartoon it
Oh
belonged
my
to.
gosh. Oh no, oh no. Okay, I think I'll be bad at this. But okay, game.
Do, 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 do. Okay, from the
Um,
same movie, following the leader, the leader, the
I know
leader.
that. I know
We're
the song,
following the leader, no matter where they go.
but I'm not sure where
Ba-dum,
it's from. Where it's
da-dum, 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 da-dum. Okay,
I don't.
and
I
then
know that it's familiar. It sounds familiar, but I don't know where it's from.
okay, another melody from the same movie,
Mhm.
from the same cartoon.
Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at this game.
Okay, the second star to the right, dee doo doo dee doo dee, da 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 dee da na. Second star to the right, and straight on till morning.
I ah, I know these guys.
Give up.
Yeah, I give up. I'm really bad at this. Where's this from?
Okay. Okay, the another song from that same movie.
Oh, okay, one more.
We can fly, we can fly, we can fly. Think of a wonderful thought, any happy little thought. Think of Christmas, think of snow. Na 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 na
Ah,
na na.
man.
Off you go. We can fly, we can fly, we can fly. Pum 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 pum. Okay,
I wanna
what
say
cartoon is that?
I wanna say Peter Pan. Is it
Correct.
Peter? Was it all? Were they all Peter Pan or just the last one?
They were all
Oh,
from
I
Peter
remember
Pan.
the second star to the right. I knew that's why it was very familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Peter
that's
Pan.
what
Peter
Peter
Pan.
Pan played the
Mhm.
pan, the pan flute.
Mhm.
Doo, doo, doo,
There you
doo,
go.
doo,
That's why it sounds so familiar.
doo. Come on, Tink. What was the name of his companion?
Tinkerbell.
Tink. Come on, Tink.
Yeah,
Tinkerbell.
yeah, yeah. This was what this Peter Pan was something you in back in New York also that your family would love to watch.
Peter Pan was a movie that I saw as a young boy in
Mhm.
Iloilo City. And it made such an impression on me that has always been my favorite cartoon. I sometimes believe that I am a Peter Pan.
Mm-mm.
I cannot fly because I don't have Tinkerbell here,
Yeah.
but I'm like a Peter Pan because Peter Pan is the boy who grew up but never
Mm.
grew old. That's why, Anton, you should always keep that youthfulness in you. You should
Yeah.
always remain young, never grow old.
How do you do that though? How would
And
you? Yeah.
remember that final scene.
Was it when Wendy
Okay,
was grown up already?
yeah, Wendy. No, remember Wendy came back from Never Never Land.
Okay, please remind me.
Peter,
What's
Pan
the
brought.
scene like?
Yeah, the final scene was when the father of Wendy saw from the window the pirate ship of Peter Pan flying across the moon. You know, the father of Wendy did not believe the story of Peter Pan. He said, "Oh, humbug! They're not. That's not true."
Yeah.
And then he saw the pirate ship of Peter Pan racing around, racing through the moon. Okay, because Peter Pan had just dropped off Wendy, Michael, and John in their home back in England from Never Never Land. And then when the father saw the ship, he said, "I think I've seen that ship before
Oh.
a long time ago when I was very young."
I can also very sense the youthful spirit in you. How do you keep that youthfulness inside for you to grow up but never grow old?
It's an attitude, Anton. You tell yourself it's an attitude. So you look at the bright side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be a pessimist.
Yeah.
You know, because as we get older, we become jaded. You know, the word jaded,
Yeah.
you know, like, yeah, nah, I don't believe that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
jaded now. You become a pessimist. Oh, something will go wrong. I know it will happen. It's going to go wrong. Be an optimist.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning, you tell yourself, today will be a nice day. I'm going to make sure that it will be a nice day. Every morning when you wake up, you give thanks. You give thanks for the gift of this day, for the gift of life, for the gift of good health, for the gift of my family, for the gift of my parents. I give thanks, Lord. Thank you, Lord. And then
Mm-hmm.
you start the day by saying, this will be a nice day. I'm going to make sure it will be a nice day. When you meet people who are negative, you try to avoid them.
Mm-hmm.
You go with people who think the same way you do.
Yeah.
People who are optimistic, people who are happy, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness is a state of mind, yes, but it's an attitude. It's an attitude that I will be a happy person. Life is short. Life is brief. William Shakespeare once said that life is just a fleeting shadow. We are all players that dance and fret on the stage and then soon gone and forgotten and heard no more.
Yeah.
So while you're in this gift of life, thank you, Lord, for this gift of life. I'm going to make something out of it. I will be happy. I will make others happy.
And I really see why the message that you bring with your music, more specifically the Christmas songs that you are really well known for, it's honest. It's not like that song is just another version of yourself. It's really who you are. You're very optimistic. You love to live life with a lot of love, and a lot of optimism.
Music is the language of the soul. Okay, music is the language of the soul. So when I write my music, I'm putting my heart into it. So number one, you have to be honest. You're honest in writing that song. So
Mhm.
it comes from your soul, it comes from your heart, it comes from your mind, and you share it with the public.
Talking about your music, I have to just discuss briefly your song Christmas in Our Hearts, just co-written with Belia D. Tan. There was an interesting story that I want to know more about. You said that you shared in this interview that you sang in an event in Lanao del Norte with predominantly Muslims, and you asked for them to request a song. Could you share that story with us?
Don't forget, this was in the middle of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It was not Christmas.
Do you know
When I was
what
invited,
year? What year was this? Was
oh, I don't remember. I don't remember exactly.
was that a long
But
time ago?
yeah, Governor Di Maporo's daughter was a classmate of my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's how the
The
connection was.
connection. Okay.
Yeah, and she invited me to do a concert in Lanao del Norte, and the concert was staged in a big gym. I don't remember how many people, maybe 2,000, maybe 1,000
It's a
people were
big
there.
concert.
They were predominantly Muslim. For 2 hours, I was singing my hits from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, song after song after song. After 2 hours, the crowd, the audience wanted more, more. So I was running out of hits. So finally I said, okay, thank you very much. You're so warm. You're such a wonderful audience. What would you like me to sing? Strangely, the song that they requested was Christmas in Our Hearts. For a while, I was taken aback. First of all, it's not Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, Christmas is not celebrated in your province.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my sound engineer had the -1. And of course, I had to, oblige them. And I began to sing the song. And the surprise of my life was in the chorus, the whole gym began to sing along with me, especially the words, "This season may we never forget the love we have for Jesus."
Wow.
And these were Muslims who did not believe in Jesus. So that's when I realized that the song had transcended religion,
Yeah.
that the song crossed border. So they were singing it like a pop song, like singing about
The latest
something
hit.
that they didn't believe, but they were enjoying the melody. This season, may we never forget the love we have for Jesus. And to the Muslims, Jesus was a prophet. They call him Isa. They don't believe him as a son of God. They believe him to be a prophet. Yeah, so that's the story.
Yeah.
Christmas in Our Hearts in Lanao del Norte in the middle of
Yeah.
the year.
And with the part that really shocked me the most was that it was with a Muslim crowd, and that just shows I guess that just shows the power of music, the influence that it can have in you reaching millions of different people. I would imagine, like, if I would just put myself in your shoes, for example, knowing that millions of people are listening to my voice, seeing my face, I get kind of conscious. Is that something that you're used to by now?
Well, I mean, the memes have been coming out the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So I'm getting used to it. But more importantly, much more than being flattered or complimented, I feel blessed that I'm beginning to be associated with Christmas, because to be associated with the most joyful season of the year
Yeah.
is something that few can identify with, that few can say that they're associated with it. After 55 years of singing and writing songs, I feel that God has rewarded me with this song. I thank Him for the blessing, and then He is rewarding me for doing this all of these years.
Yeah. It's extra special to me because I love Christmas, but my birthday is on December 7 also. So I would say that December 7 is far enough from Christmas that when it's my birth week, parang the spotlight's still on me. Ako pa rin yung bida. But generally kasi in the Ber Months, you know, Christmas lights are up, Christmas songs, people are generally happier. And then we have Christmas songs also coming in. So I just for me, the last 3 months of the year are always the best ones because they're always the happiest.
Yeah, and then you get two gifts in December.
Yes.
One for your birthday, December 7th, and for Christmas,
Or
December
just
25.
one big gift instead.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
but whatever it is, yeah. I have friends born in December, and their name Noel.
My name's Manuel, Antonio Manuel. But that's also my
Okay.
father's side grandfather. His name's Manuel then. Now
Oh,
talking about Christmas though, now that we're in we're still in the topic of Christmas. You talked about your Christmases, you know, when you were in New York. But then in the Philippines, do you like to sing in your own Christmas parties?
no, no, I don't sing in my own Christmas homes or I mean party
Work.
celebration. No. But before this pandemic, this is what we would do. Okay, we would gather the families, the children and the grandchildren, and we would go to the house and we would have Christmas tree trimming. We
It's
would
a
decorate the Christmas.
it's a
Yeah,
real treat.
not on Christmas tree, not on Christmas Day
Day.
itself,
Yeah.
but you know, at the Advent, the start of Christmas season, we would bring them all to the house, and okay, we decorate the tree today. So as I told you, they will have their own
Ornaments. Yeah.
and I would take movies and I would take pictures. Then we would have a meal together,
Yeah.
and we would go to mass also together. Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, if let's say, because three of my children are married, they have their own homes. If they to go to Christmas Eve mass by themselves, okay lang, because we live apart.
Yeah.
But I generally wish that we could go to celebrate mass, to hear mass together. That's an ideal, the ideal thing to do.
I was just gonna I could give a suggestion though for this year. You said that you guys live apart and I'm not sure. I do wanna be optimistic like you. I'm not sure if the big gatherings in Christmas, the big physical gatherings in Christmas will be that safe. So maybe what your family could do is you could have a Zoom, you could have a mass online, and then all your family, even if let's say if you have relatives abroad, you can all somewhat have mass together this Christmas.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because the truth is, every day, my wife, myself, and our two children who are living with us, we hear mass together online. And our favorite mass is the Catholic TV network in Canada. Have you heard mass there?
Not in Canada.
Okay.
We go to the feast.
You can also hear mass when Cardinal Tagle, before he flew back to the Philippines,
From Italy. Yeah.
he would say mass in Rome. So very meaningful. Then you have the JESCOM here in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now I know that you're a very busy person, so I just have a few last questions. These are questions that a lot of people are curious about. Number one is, who handles your social media accounts? I see that you have a Facebook page also. We see those updates. If you're gonna guest in the show, you post about it. Do you handle your own social media accounts?
No, I don't. Sorry. Yeah, I hired a friend of mine to handle the Facebook for me. What they do is they forward to me some important messages, but I don't do it myself because I don't have time between my family and my work.
Yeah.
I hardly have time.
Do you have the second question though connected to that? Do you have a favorite app, either on the computer or on the phone, that you like to use?
No, I don't. I'm not really computer savvy.
Mm-hmm.
That's why if you saw that earlier on part one of our
Yeah.
interview, I was at home, and
Yeah.
then but I had to go to the office, and I spent about an hour, 2 hours there, and then after that, I was about to go back to the house for our part two,
Yeah.
but then something was wrong with our Wi-Fi at home.
Oh,
So I decided to come.
everybody experienced those problems, sir. As in Wi-Fi, yeah, it's the new traffic.
So I decided to come to my son's house and ask my granddaughter to set this up for me.
Wow.
So that's
Oh,
why
okay.
there's a different background
Yeah,
now.
it's a different. But the lighting is still good. In our part one, I would say the lighting was still good, the angle and the audio and everything. So even if you're not really on social media using apps, you've got it down, at least for these online interviews that we're doing. Next question, and this one's a little deeper. What would you say is your biggest accomplishment so far?
Probably my biggest accomplishment is being a good father and a good family man. You know, at life's end, at the end of one's life, you look back and you probably say to yourself, "Wow, I've made millions and millions of pesos, but I'm separated from my wife." Something like
Mm-hmm.
that. So at the end of that life, you are a failure
Yeah.
in a sense. When you amass wealth, the old saying is that you cannot take it with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question that you ask yourself at the end of your life is that, did I produce good children, constructed children, loving children, children who are Christians, who are kind and generous? Did I raise a good family? Was I a good husband? Was I a good friend to the community? It was the Dalai Lama who once said that people are made to love and to be loved, and things are made to be used. Okay? Sadly, there comes a time when people begin to love things and use people.
That's right.
I think my biggest accomplishment, I'd like to think that I was a good father, a good husband, a good family man,
Yeah. Yeah.
without patting myself on the back.
No, but you deserve that pat. I would
You
say
know,
you
I have,
deserve that pat on
I
the
have,
back.
I've had failings. I mean, nobody's perfect.
Of course.
I've had failings. Um, I have weaknesses. I have faults. Uh, but you try to improve on it day after day.
Hmm. That's right.
It's always a struggle. Life is a journey. Life is a journey.
I think that's a great reminder. Your answer is a great reminder to people who are trying to chase success and trying to achieve big things in life, because I love it that you have a successful business. You have so many hits that are known all around the world, yet you would say your biggest accomplishment, and I guess the legacy as well, would be your family. It's the people you really value. It's those relationships. For the last question of this mini part, we talked about your memes. We mentioned it for the past 5 or 6 years. You've been seeing them. People really do enjoy them, get a laugh out of them. What would be your message to those people who are making the memes and those, just like me, have been enjoying them these past years?
Um, to those who made those memes, thank you very much for putting the spotlight on me. Thank you very much. But I hope and I wish that you could make those memes more positive, because there was a meme that showed me peeping and said, "Malapit na ako, kayo matagal pa."
Oh, about
And
going out. Yeah, because of the lockdown.
yeah, and so while it's realistic, like while it's talking about what is happening to us today, but still, sana, you could say, oh, malapit ng Christmas. Don't worry, malapit na. Don't worry. So it's positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hopeful, di ba? Full of hope that this darkness will soon be lifted and soon we will see a bright new day, the new normal, and we will be again reunited with our friends. So more positive.
That's right.
And
That's
oh, and to those of you who are enjoying these memes, maybe help to come up with good positive messages in your memes, because social media is a big responsibility. You know, like there are people who would put things out that are mean and, you know, cruel to other people. Why do that? You use your energy into doing good positive things in this life. No?
yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
I hope I don't sound too much like a lolo
No, no.
or an old
You
man.
sound, I would say you sound like a very wise man who has achieved a lot, which is true, and that's really what you've done. And you're still very humble despite everything
No,
that's happened.
I'm I'm not wise. As I've said, Anton, I have my own failings, my own failures, my own weaknesses. And no, I'm not superhuman. I'm
Yeah.
just and you know, by the way, uh, I hope that I can go back to writing songs, because for the last a year and a half, parang I'm going through a period of drought.
Yeah.
Parang there's no inspiration to write new songs. So
Well, I
maybe Anton, you could suggest some new ideas.
yeah, maybe I just one from the top of my head. You
Yeah.
have made a lot of love songs. Maybe it could be a love song, but in the style of a pandemic. The way that how do you made a like a remix or another version of your song. You can we stop and talk a while? But it was like an internet pandemic, how do I say this,
Yes.
version. I think that would be I could, if I don't make music, I don't know what it's like, what's gonna, di ba, kung ano yung papatok, what makes sense. But maybe that would be a suggestion. It could be in that topic. Maybe you could get inspiration from that.
Okay, good idea. I'll work on
Thank
that
you.
today.
Thank you. I'm so honored, and I'm really looking forward to that. And once again, I want to thank you very much for your time on behalf of everybody who they really enjoy your music. I want to thank you. But for me personally, you were also, a lot of people don't know this, but you were also a part of you performed in the fundraiser for my church, the Our Lady of Consolation Parish, for free. You helped the renovation, and on a more personal note, because of you, my logo got to show his love in a certain way with your song.
Okay, and thank you, Anton. It's a pleasure meeting you, and it's a pleasure exchanging ideas and chatting with you. And so, as promised, please give me your address,
Yes, yes.
and so that I can send you my CDs, and you can
Wow.
rediscover and discover some songs that did not become hits, but otherwise songs that came from my heart. Again, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. And I hope that your followers, the ones who follow your podcast, enjoyed this moment with us.
And I want to wish you a Merry, Merry Christmas, and God bless you and your family, sir. Thank you.
God bless you too. God bless. And I promise I will pray for your grandparents today.